Coming into the 2025 season, I don't think a lot of people expected Texas A&M to be considered the best team or one of the best teams in the SEC. Did they have a chance to do that? Yes. However, did many people think that? Absolutely not. Now, certain things did need to go right for them to be in this position, but they've had those things go right. There are some developments that have been really nice, and all of a sudden, Texas A&M is the title contender that nobody saw coming in 2025. Now, when you look at this team, Mike Elko has done a lot of good things, and he's been very vocal about holding this team to a higher standard, to a standard that is near the top of the SEC. You look at the end of the season last year and some of the comments that he made, it was clear that he had bigger and better goals for this team than maybe they even had for themselves. That was very evident early in his tenure. And this is a guy who expected this team to be in a position to compete for an SEC championship and even maybe a national championship. But outside of College Station, there were not many people that believed that. There weren't many people that saw this coming. And I think a lot of people were excited about the potential of Texas A&M, but did they expect certain things to develop? No, we had questions about the passing attack. We had questions about the defensive line. We had questions about a lot of different things with this team. And those questions, for the most part, have been answered. Now, are there concerns about this team? There's definitely some concerns, but there aren't really many teams in college football this year that don't have a lot of weaknesses or concerns. The beginning of the year, though, is showing us a team that has some excitement, but there are maybe some underlying issues that could be exposed. When you play UTSA and Utah State and you give up a combined 46 points to those two teams, not great, but those games weren't exactly going to be close. However, that defense maybe had some concerns. Then you play Notre Dame and you win 41-40. Again, your offense is showing that they're in a great place, but your defense is showing that there might be some things that need to get fixed sooner rather than later. Fortunately, when the offense does have a bad game against Auburn, the defense steps up and they win 16-10. Next game, you beat a Mississippi State team that is much better than people realize and win 31-9. You beat Florida 34-17. So the defense is showing that they can be reliable. And then you play Arkansas and you kind of get back to the questions about that team, 45-42. So it's clear this team has questions. However, you've also seen that they are capable of turning it on and being a big time problem. But the defense at times, I think, will give you some concerns, and maybe you're worried about that. But at the same time, you've seen that this is a group that when they play really well, or when they play at the level they're capable of, this is a team that is a problem. And LSU found that out the hard way. And this is kind of why we started talking about this, is the win over LSU showed an offense that could not be stopped, a defense that is flying around the field and playing with a ton of energy. That is the Texas A&M that you need to be worried about. And when you look at the remaining part of their schedule, this is a team that could go undefeated. That is something that I don't think a lot of people talked about coming into this year. And a big reason why is their quarterback. Marcel Reed is someone that we thought we knew what he was going to be. I don't think anybody expected him to take another step in Colin Klein's system, and give Colin Klein a ton of credit. He's been a big reason why they've been successful. But Marcel Reed is on another level this year. He's already exceeded his numbers passing from last season, and he's well on his way to have a career high in both rushing yards and rushing touchdowns as well. This is a team that goes through him. They will go as far as he takes them. And right now, he's playing with a ton of confidence. And that's not something we saw coming in this year. We knew that he was a capable dual threat. We had questions about his passing, and we had questions about his receivers. And so far, he has done a great job of taking care of the football, making smart reads, and also running when he needs to. He is not solely focused on becoming a pocket passer, and that's really exciting for Texas A&M. To be able to rely on him as a passer gives you more in your offense that you didn't have last year. And also it helps when you had a stable of running backs that you knew were going to be good. And so far that has been the case. Reuben Owens has been solid for this team. You've seen a number of other rushers step up as well. But the questions we had were in the passing attack. And a lot of that's been on Marcel Reed, and he's shown that he's done his part. You brought in guys like Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver, and when you looked at them, there were two things. First, you wondered, who's Marcel Reed going to throw the ball to? You had questions about that. And then also, who's going to want to come to Texas A&M to play with him? That was probably a question a lot of people had to ask. And Mike Elko believed in his guy. Colin Klein believed in his guy. And they got these two guys to come in, and they said, take a look at what he can do, and you'll see why you'll like it. And Craver's been, at times, the sole reason why the offense has been revived in certain games, and he's been an explosive threat, averaging nearly 18 yards per catch. Concepcion has also been super solid and has 7 receiving touchdowns, 545 yards. He also had multiple punt returns this past game where LSU just looked all out of sorts and had a ton of issues trying to slow him down. So you found, hey, we have a quarterback, and by the way, we have these 2 wide receivers that a lot of people overlooked. And part of the transfer portal is getting guys that are going to be able to make an impact, and Texas A&M has 2 of those guys. Now, the defense, we talked about them. They still have some things that they need to sort out. They're giving up 27 points a game. That is not going to get you to a national championship. So Mike Elko knows that. If anybody's going to point out what's wrong with this team, Mike Elko knows. He is going to push his team to meet a higher standard than where they're at. And they're undefeated. So that should give you an idea of where this team is going. But when you lose the talent that Texas A&M did going into this season, you had questions about the defensive line. However, I think there were some, I talked about this coming into the year. You had a lot of good talent still on this roster. Cassius Howell had the potential to be really good. The question was always going to be, can he take his game to a level that it needs to be? And so far, this group is playing beyond expectations. Now, if they can get the things that they need to figure out in line, this is going to be a dangerous team for the rest of the season. Now, they do have to play Missouri, South Carolina, and Texas, and then potentially the SEC championship. So how do you get to that point where you're going to be a problem for everybody? It's still going to be tough, and whoever you play in the SEC championship is going to be a problem. Whether that's Alabama, Georgia, whoever that's going to be, Texas A&M is going to have everything figured out by that point. But so far, they're off to a great start. Marcel Reed's playing really well. Colin Klein is going to get a head coaching job probably after this year. And this is a team that, even though they have some things to sort out, they're an absolutely dangerous team heading into the rest of the season.